But otherwise, yeah, we should be all set. All live. Yeah. So, this is going to be our my first attempt at it, and I will be having different guests throughout the shows as I go, talking about different shows, movies, this case an anime, music, whatever we want to talk about that week. This is my friend Gavin. For this first one, I actually put it upon myself here to do something that I hadn't actually already seen. So a lot of times I'm going to have a lot of extra tidbits and information to give throughout the shows. But this one is actually one of Gavin's favorite animes, Kill la Kill. And I do not have any additional things to offer other than my just kind of first thought opinions as I just watched this show over the course of the last 2 weeks. Yeah, Gavin, would you like to say anything to start off?
Well, I mean, Kill la Kill has been one of my favorite animes for a while. It's ever since I saw it, one of my friends introduced it to me, and I believe you'll agree that the first episode is absolutely a wild ride if you're not quite expecting anything.
Yeah, so the way I would describe this show so far is it's kind of 3 different shows put into one show. Like, not necessarily shows as much as like Doctor Who has different doctors as you go along. I feel like the show is just separated into 3 separate parts, and you get a completely different character as the show goes on. Like the first, 6 or 8 episodes, essentially up to that first major battle of all the 4 people, the Elite Four, is one show, and then it separates into a separate show where they're all now trying to 100% defeat her because she's the problem, and then the final half, or the final third, which is where the real big baddie appears.
Yeah.
And I found myself through the course of this show genuinely okay, I really like this. This is good. And then it gets to the end of that first section, and I'm like, oh, okay, this new section's really weird. I don't know how I feel about this. And then I'm like, this is great. This is better than the first part.
Yeah.
And then you finish that, and you get to the third section, like, what the fuck is this? This makes no sense. And then you're like, okay, this is the good part.
Yeah.
And I genuinely don't understand how it worked. Like, it genuinely was good throughout. But I was very confused throughout as well. Not necessarily on the storyline, but confused as to why I enjoyed it.
That's fair. That's very fair. I agree.
But yeah, it was a very, very strange, wild ride. And I think the fact that they went all in that first episode, like you said, it really is just a wild ride.
It starts showing you exactly what the anime is going to be about.
It really does.
Not just plot-wise, but also plot-wise. But it shows you that it's going to use very dynamic imagery. It's going to use very suggestive themes. It's going to be very much a matter of metaphor, and puns are everywhere.
Puns are everywhere. And so, do you have a specific opinion as to whether or not it needs to be watched like dub or sub? Because I did the dub because I wanted to make it easy on myself.
So, here's the thing. There really is no difference, in my opinion, as someone who does not know Japanese. Yeah. If you know Japanese and can listen to it, watch the sub, because there are these moments called, what I call them, Mako moments. It's when the one of the side characters, Mankacho, is doing her strange, she goes into these weird, no, I'm right, you're wrong, and she just says random things. And watching it without knowing Japanese and watching it in English is pretty much the same thing for us, because there really isn't going to be a difference. But if you know Japanese, the entire thing, every time she goes into one of those, is a pun.
Okay. And
pun after pun after pun based on...
We're talking Mako, right? Mako.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's... I can't even begin to describe what some of the puns are, because I do not know the language. I don't want to say, oh, it means this, and be very wrong, because I will be very wrong.
Well, that was one thing too, is I watched it on Netflix, and so I had the English subtitles up as well because I just always have the subtitles up at this point. And there were definitely lines that, because you can hear what they're doing with the dub versus what you would have with a sub. And there's definitely lines that I liked better on the just like subbed version of it because they were a bit more serious or more, I think serious is the word I'm looking for here. Mm-hmm. Whereas the English dub, I felt really played to the funness of it. But a majority of the times, I liked the lines better in the dub from what I could tell.
Yeah, I really do like the dub. The dub itself actually was nominated for Best Vocal Ensemble for an anime. I forget which year. I think it was like 2015 or something. Yeah, but like there are some anime where I'm like, absolutely do not watch the English.
Oh, there's definitely some.
But this one, if you have Netflix and have access to it, watch either way. Like,
and it's a really easy watch.
It is.
Like, it's something that I was able to put on in the background when I was doing other things, but then also I was able to just sit there and be fully aware of it and watch it without having to have anything else around, which as someone with ADHD is not something I can always do. Like, I need, and I think that's one of the things that this show lends itself to is it is all over the place at times, which does kind of make it possible to do that.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and like puns everywhere. The name itself, the name Kill la Kill itself is a pun.
Okay.
The word kill, the English word kill when pronounced in Japanese is kiru, which based on specific kanji or katakana, whichever one it is, also means to wear.
Okay.
So Kill la Kill is either to wear kill or kill to wear. It's a fashion. It's for people who don't know what Kill la Kill is about. Main character is trying to avenge her late father who was assassinated or killed or murdered, however you want to see it. And she arrives at this school where she believes her father's killer is. And the school is a hierarchy of the student class president at the very top. Then it goes to the Elite Four. And then it goes to the student body. Now, to determine your rank, you get assigned either a 1, 2, or a 3-star Goku uniform. And these Goku uniforms augment physical abilities. They let you do crazy things. That's
an understatement.
I mean, 1 star, they get buff and strong.
I mean, the words "crazy things" is a complete understatement for the psychotic things that happen. So the 1 stars, they make you strong, they make you buff, you can do cool things, cool, that's whatever, basic stuff. The 2 stars are when, like, the class presidents get these. So, not the class, club presidents. Club presidents, yeah.
They get things, so, like, there was a club president who was the boxing club president.
I knew we were going straight for, I mean, it was still, like, the first or second episode, but, like...
It's, like, the first, yeah.
What a crazy way to introduce the fighting style of this show.
Yeah, so this dude comes out with his boxing uniform, and no shirt, it's, like, the classic, doesn't have a shirt, it's just boxing shorts, and padded glove. Well, under the glove is a giant metal brick, and he can punch like 150 times a second, and then it turns into a drill. Crazy things. And that's just the 2 stars. There's an entire episode about the main character, Ryuko, just going through and taking out a couple of these club presidents, and there's a tennis one, and that, for some reason, they made tennis the most intense thing for like 10 minutes.
I loved it. I loved it.
It was great.
I really want it. So I had no idea where this storyline was going, and they went like I thought we were gonna have. Like, I saw the episode count was like 24 episodes, and by episode like 4 or 5, she's already fighting like multiple club members an episode.
Yeah.
And so I thought this show was going to be like 10 episodes of just straight like taking down people, like Monster of the Week type things, but with her just beating the shit out of a bunch of kids. And I was in. I was ready for that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, no, she's gonna go fight the Elite Four. I'm like, we're like 7 episodes in.
Yeah.
This is way too early.
They already beat all the club presidents.
Yeah.
Because they started their own club. They started Fight Club.
Yes.
And Fight Club's job is to fight other clubs.
Which, it's in the name, yeah.
And that was another great episode. The other thing I really like about this series is certain episodes will just have incredibly deep meanings in them. Where in this one, Mako and Ryuko start their own club, Fight Club, and they are going around and just fighting a bunch of other clubs. Yeah. That's all they're doing. They're just fighting clubs because her uniform isn't a Goku uniform. It's a different thing altogether. And it absorbs power by defeating these Goku uniforms and absorbing their what are called life fibers. And the whole episode is talking about how in this school, the class presidents and the club presidents and the Elite Four, they all have a social status outside of the school determined by your Goku uniform. The higher up you get, the wealthier you are allowed to be. No star students who don't get these uniforms, live in squalor in the slums.
See, that I think was one of the biggest things that it took me a bit to really fully get into.
Yeah.
Was how much this entire economy around high school students was based on these uniforms, and how like it's essentially a bunch of high school and middle school students. Just it affects their entire families.
Yeah.
That was just kind of insane.
Because like Mako's father is a doctor. He is a doctor. He's a doctor.
He's a doctor.
And kind of.
Exactly my point. Kind of.
But so like you would be like, oh, he's a doctor. He has money. He's a scam artist. He really is. They
specifically say back alley doctor, and I love it.
Yes. But then she gets her 1-star uniform, and all of a sudden they're living in a nice house. It's not anything too crazy fancy. It would be considered like upper middle class if we were to relate it to real world. But then all of a sudden she gets a 2-star Goku uniform, and they are living in like Beverly Hills. They're living in a giant house. They have a car. They have a pool. The wife is just like, oh, can I go buy this cool diamond thing that I saw the other day? And the dad's like, oh, sure, whatever. That's fine.
They just go straight into like being
they don't even
barons.
Care.
Like they're just barons.
Yeah, and it's very interesting the entire episode how quickly the family adapts to their new life.
Yeah,
and it all comes down to in that episode fight between Mako and Ryuko, because Ryuko's like, this is destroying your family.
Yeah.
This wealth and stuff that you've accumulated is ruining the relationship.
Yeah, you guys aren't the people you are. You aren't the family you are. You aren't a family anymore. You guys are completely separating yourselves. You're not talking or like they had these such great intimate moments throughout the first half of that show, where they start off with Ryuko kind of becoming a part of their family instantaneously.
Yes. Because
they don't have money. And it's one of those things where they share what they do have, and they make these great big family meals with what they can, and they just kind of these makeshift items of food with whatever she can find. And they're great moments that you as a viewer really relate to and can automatically be like, that seems so nice, even though they're so poor.
Yeah. And
it's just a great moment throughout the show. And then
you just see it.
Yeah, within literally a week in show time. Like they straight up say like this is like within a week.
Yeah.
They have completely disrupted that entire family dynamic. They don't talk anymore.
You would have thought that their entire life was being these barons who just have this copious amount of wealth.
Yeah, and just showed how that wealth was able to disrupt them so quickly. And it was such a great big metaphor without saying it ever.
Yeah. And it comes down to a single fight where in the fight she gets her 2-star uniform, and it's like it's the classic Japanese sort of school bully uniform where it's the coat over the shoulders, this twig or plant in the mouth, the whole like they have brass knuckles, they have a bat with nails in it, all that stuff, like just all sorts of these like stereotypical school bully. Yeah. And that's her uniform for being the class president of the fight club.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the fight, she couldn't bring herself to deliver the final blow against Ryuko, and she turns back and just yells at her family like, "Oh my gosh, why aren't you stopping me? I'm gonna kill her."
Yeah, like
and the family
was egging it on the whole time, like,
because
yes,
they want to stay wealthy.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time when I first watched this that I'm like, oh, maybe this anime isn't just crazy. It is crazy.
It 100% is crazy, but they really do bring things along. Like they really do manage to make it more than just a random anime about people fighting things.
Exactly.
Like they really do bring something new to the table. Like that's the thing too, is it's a fresh take on everything.
Yes.
It really does feel different.
Yes.
I do want to break off for a moment from this and just go straight into the best character in the show, because we've been talking about her a lot, and I assume you agree, because the consensus I have gotten from everybody is that Mako is the best character in the show.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a different take?
So I don't have a specific best character. Okay. There are a few that I do really hold up very high.
Yeah, there's a lot that are really good, but I think Mako is.
I do really like the beginning main antagonist, Satsuki Kiryuin. She is just how she goes about it, and her character in general. It doesn't necessarily go through a huge amount of character development, but I mean, in terms of what have like it's revealed very late on that like pretty much the entire series has been planned by her.
Yeah, which I gotta say, that was one of the impressive things with that show, was showing her through. Like she's in the forefront the entire time, yet she's still in the background.
She's a mystery for a while. Like, you don't know much, you don't understand much, and then all of a sudden that one episode hits, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and it never felt like it was a complete separation from her character. At no point did everything we'd seen in flashbacks or who she was in the present, at no point did it ever feel like this was wrong. Like it still felt like this is the character we'd seen the whole time. Mm-hmm. It was such a great use of character development, but being able to make it a plot twist. Like I was really impressed with the fact that it never felt forced, which is strange, because it really was a complete 180 on the series' story so far.
Yes. Yep.
But it felt natural. Yeah. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep. And so, but yes, I do agree. Mako, one of my absolute favorite characters. She is such a well-written character. You have somebody chiming in with Gamagori being in the top 10, and I would 100% agree. Oh, Gamagori is in the top 10. Gamagori is great. Max.
Yeah, that's Max. Okay.
That's Max.
I do love Gamagori, and I love his interactions with Mako specifically.
Yes.
Throughout the entire series, especially at the end.
It becomes more of like a concerned older brother.
Yeah.
Sort of like he wants to discipline her because she is being rambunctious and crazy and rebellious.
Yeah, but looking out for them, trying to make sure that they can do the best that they can throughout their life. And that it was so heartwarming, while also like he never at no point, and I think the use of him was one of the ways that they made Satsuki so that storyline with Satsuki so easily believable, that she was on the side of good that whole time. Mm-hmm. Because there were so many moments where he would show up and help them, and he would fight and do all that against them, but there was never anything.
It was never
evil.
Malicious.
Yeah, like it was always like, this is my duty. This is what I'm going to do. He was always somebody that was just very much like, this is what I'm told to do, I will do it.
Anytime he fought Ryuko, it was, I am the head of the disciplinary committee.
Yeah.
I need to discipline you, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was never, you're my enemy and I have to destroy you. It was always the disciplinary committee. Yeah. But no, I love Mako. I love Gamagori. Gamagori is great.
Yeah.
Satsuki is great. Ryuko is pretty solid.
Yeah, that's definitely one of these things. Is like Ryuko is pretty great, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I would put her in the top 5 characters.
No, she's the one that drives the story because she's the main character. But
and she's great, and I love the relationship that develops between her and Senketsu throughout the entire thing.
Yes,
I think they did such a great job of balancing the two of them and showing them both kind of taking control and falling back, and just they genuinely did have a give and take throughout.
Yeah.
But it took time and learning on both of their parts.
Yeah, it was very much like learning, oh, who are you as a person? Who am I as a person?
Yeah.
And for others who don't know, we're talking about a relationship between the main character and her uniform.
Yes.
Back on the uniforms, they have the 1, 2, and 3 star. 1 star, 2 stars are the students, and then the 3 stars are the Elite Four. The stars represent the percentage of life fibers in the uniform, and up until Satsuki and Ryuko come along, there is no ability to wear more than a 30% Goku uniform. They attempted it with a 4 star to see if they could make something even stronger, and the person was destroyed in the process. They had a student died at that point.
Yeah.
And so it then becomes a thing where there are now these other uniforms that Satsuki and Ryuko can wear that are 100% life fibers.
Kamuis.
Yes, the Kamuis. And they augment and they are continuously adapting, they're changing, and Sankatsu's, which is Ryugo's Kamui, Sankatsu is constantly gaining more and more power, and that's why like she had such a rapid explosive growth and then fought the Elite Four, is because she was destroying these other Goku uniforms and absorbing their life fibers. So that entire arc that we just talked about was her literally just gaining power rapidly.
And I think that's something that I'm going to really enjoy on a rewatch, because I will rewatch this. I think like it was something that was genuinely good enough to rewatch.
Okay.
And I think what's really cool is that there's so much of that show that makes more sense as it goes on. Like that exact thing of like how quickly she adapts and gets all that extra power, or Sen gets all that extra power as well. And I think that's something that's going to be amazing on the rewatch, is noticing those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yes, Josh, we are in the same room. But yeah, it's really, really amazing how well that story is thought out, even though it seems so random throughout.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of planning behind it, I can tell.
Yeah.
And like with the growth, like just the difference in power level that she has when she fights the very first Elite Four and the very last Elite Four, leading up to, like at the very end of this, like whatever arc it was. I just call it the tournament arc.
Yeah.
It's all anime have a tournament arc. This was the tournament arc.
They all do. Which is funny because her like the tournament arc for them was essentially the beginning.
Yes,
which
it was
is
right away.
Pretty rare.
Yep. You usually see that like
mid to 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah. But so like there's just so much that goes on in that. And of course spoilers are happening because like
out the
window. Spoilers.
Yeah.
This is 7 years old.
Yeah, I say it's like 6-7 year up.
That's too bad. Go watch it. It's fun.
Yeah, just good luck.
And what ends up happening is like she's fighting all of these different characters. So like even more so than the 2 stars, the 3-star uniforms that the Elite Four have really are just outrageous. The first fight that she goes into, I believe, was with Iragamagori.
Yeah.
Who is the disciplinary president. Or
is it first Gamagori, or is it the one who ends up blinding himself?
I don't think he's first.
I think Gamagori's first.
That's later. No, that's later because Nuie comes in.
She comes in on the second fight. Or the third fight, technically.
His fights.
What would have been the third fight gets stopped abruptly.
Yes.
Because this other crazy person comes in.
And that's a whole...
with an umbrella of all goddamn things.
And she destroys people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Iragamagori is a 3-star uniform holder, and his uniform...
is kinky.
Very. It is called Shackle Regalia.
Yes, it is.
All of the Elite Fours have some form of regalia. Shackle Regalia is bondage. It is bondage. The more damage he takes, he explodes in what he calls a climax and just absolutely whips everyone.
Literally whips.
Just destroys with these spiky, big tentacle whips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
impenetrable from the outside.
The show is so sexual at all times.
Yeah.
And it's
warning.
I don't like it at all times, but there's a lot of times that is good. Like it's really, really strange how sexualized it is, but also in a way that's not necessarily like it's not serious at so many points.
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't at the same time it also doesn't feel too somehow it doesn't feel too over the top. Like it doesn't feel like cringe. Like it's almost a parody. Like I would say it's closer to a parody than anything else. So. Like it's taking itself very seriously, but it knows that the subject matter that they're on is very strange, and so they don't try to overdo it.
Yeah,
it's so hard to describe without just watching it. Like
it is. There's a lot that goes into, like, we could talk about this forever, and you would still experience something very different when you first watch it. Yeah. It's incredible. One of my favorite portions of the show is right after the fight with the Elite Four. It stops very abruptly, and Senketsu and Ryuko's Kamui, her uniform, is effectively stolen from her.
Yes.
She goes crazy. She goes berserk. She loses control of the power, of course. It has that whole sort of like, I'm too powerful for my own good. I have to learn how to control this. And it goes into this slump where she doesn't want to wear the uniform because she's scared that she's going to do it again and hurt people that she cares about. Her Kamui gets stolen from her. And then the sewing club president starts patching little pieces of the Kamui onto other Goku uniforms.
Yeah, so when it gets stolen, it gets cut up into a bunch of pieces.
Yeah, like hundreds.
Yeah.
And then Satsuki Kiryuin sends her school on a district school raid where they literally go to, what, two other schools?
Three other schools.
And just lay waste to them.
Just straight up shit on a bunch of other kids.
Like, these kids are like, we have the football team from America,
like,
and
I cannot stress enough that it's a full-on war between, like, 15-year-olds, and it's just brutal.
Yeah.
But amazingly so.
Oh, it's wonderful. There's a giant golden crab that gets plunged repeatedly in the asshole.
Yeah. To
his delight.
Oh God, yeah.
I think he learned something about himself.
He definitely did. He definitely did.
And that was Osaka.
Who hasn't?
Nah. But yeah, Osaka and Mako snuck on this raid trip. She wasn't supposed to come because she doesn't have a uniform. And so she sneaks on this raid trip, shows up in Osaka.
She does she sneak on? I feel like
it's a sneak.
I thought she got in trouble and Gamagori forced her in for disciplinary reasons. I believe she was messing around with something nearby, and Gamagori yelled at her and then forced her to come with.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was forced to come with, and then she snuck out.
Yes.
Because there was a bunch of food. And if there's one thing you will learn about Mako throughout this entire series,
food driven.
Bitch love food.
Food driven.
Like I feel that.
Like, you train a dog, and when a dog is trainable, you're like, oh, they're very food-driven.
Speaking of food-driven dogs, Guts. So, I've been told by a few different people that Guts is this great character, and everybody loves Guts. He's there.
He's definitely there.
Like, I didn't necessarily feel like he was of the family, I think he's the one I cared about the least. Like,
yes.
He didn't really bring anything other than some, like, random R2-D2 style.
It was
like,
less than
comedy.
R2-D2.
Yeah, like, I didn't.
It happened.
He didn't need to be
sporadically in a few episodes, and
minus one episode where they're doing the whole, like, battle to the school thing.
Yeah.
That obstacle course bit with him was pretty great.
Yeah.
But other than that, there was no real need for Guts.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Guts, cute side character, don't need him.
Yeah,
and
he
you
was
can
fine.
fight me on that.
Yeah.
But it has this like Mako in Osaka. She wants this food, but she doesn't have any money because they only accept Osaka.
For some reason, I forgot about this for a second. Yeah.
And there's these. Part of the Osaka school is we are going to fight you with our money.
Yeah, it's a bunch of rich people.
They're like the private school.
Yeah, and
they're like the fancy people.
They've got machine guns
that shoot money.
Like they're fucking bullets.
But like they're not real money.
It's specific money to that area.
I forget the dude's name.
I do too. But the guy who found out. Okay, yeah. So the guy who found out he likes things. Yeah, so he has his own form of currency.
And so they take out these SMGs that are just like, and they shoot money to like attack their opponents.
And it's just beating the shit out of everybody else. Like the normal people that are there with Goku uniforms that have been powered up by pieces of Senketsu have now, like, they're being taken down by these money guns. Mako is like, money! And just charges in. Doesn't even
stands point blank.
Doesn't even attack the guy.
The guy starts shooting at her.
Yeah, just waits for
and she just grabs every single one out of the air and then runs into town to go buy food.
Yeah, the guy
doesn't give a shit.
It was amazing.
That there's a war happening.
Yep.
The town is exploding. She wants...
Speaking of which, none of the shop owners give a shit either.
No, because money.
But also, like, you'd think they'd be a little concerned about things exploding next to them.
No,
but literally, like, they're just like, oh yeah, it's those kids again. Like, that's the thing with this show. None of the adults care what these children are doing at any given time. And I don't understand it. Like... The only adults you really see in that show, other than Satsuki's mother, who is really not a person, is Mako's family.
Mako's family.
And I guess Gamagori.
Gamagori, he has purposefully held himself back. So there was a flashback.
At least 3 years.
There was a flashback explaining why each of the Elite Four is following Satsuki. And Gamagori is because he absolutely admires her unbreakable will.
Which, very, very true.
100%. You cannot break Satsuki.
They tried,
yes. And so, Gamagori, it talks about how, like, when he first met her, she was, like, I don't even know if they gave an age, but probably, like, 5th grade.
I believe, well...
She was young.
She was in middle school. I think she was maybe yeah, it scared the shit out of me. It scared the bejesus out of me. I knocked my light over. Anyways, I believe she was supposed to be around like 5th or 6th grade. I get confused where their years are.
Yeah.
But like 1 or 2 years before middle school goes into high school for us.
Yeah, and he held himself back for all of these years so that she could be the class president and he would serve under her. Yeah. So he's like 25. Or 26. Like, he is our age right now.
He's got to be somewhere between 23 to 26.
And the other, you all, of course, in, like, flashbacks, see Ryuko's father, because you get to see the night he dies. And then it flashes.
You see that a few times.
Yeah, it keeps going back to it, but it keeps going back a little bit further every time.
Yeah, every time you get a bit more detail.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
But after the raid trip, I want your honest to God opinion. What did you first feel and think the moment Satsuki literally crucified her mother?
Like literally like when she like turned on her and stabbed her?
And threw her on a cross and pierced her heart, arms, feet. What was going through your mind the moment that happened?
Honestly, I genuinely thought they were... I was very shocked that they were just going to use her as a throwaway character. Because I genuinely did think they were going to kill her off and Satsuki was going to... was still going to be the villain of this. But in a matter of, like, like she's going to make sure that no one else can like wear these like Goku uniforms and all this other clothing. She was going to take down Ryuko to get rid of Senkats. I genuinely thought she was going to stay the villain of this show, and I thought it was something that like it's a very interesting way to give the villain a, at this point, genuinely like legitimate reason for it. And then within a minute of her being stabbed, it's like, oh no. no.
Satsuki was the good guy.
Yeah, I was like, she's still monologuing. We're okay here.
Yeah,
she's the good one.
So
we're okay.
Satsuki's mother is not human.
Who
was human, no longer human.
I was a little confused by that whole process. I don't know if I was just not paying enough attention or if they just kind of gloss over that, but like, because she is melded with them now.
Yeah, so the life fibers turn out to be this space alien entity that flies around space and attempts to completely decimate planets.
I did not expect the alien aspect.
That was also a toss for me. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? But then, like, at the same time, I could see it.
They did a good job with it.
Yeah.
And I initially thought it was all a matter of, like, these life fibers were just essentially a technology that was developed. That's what I thought was going to happen, and I thought it's where it was going to stay. And then to bring in the alien aspect, but then still bring it back to Senketsu being manufactured.
Yes.
Versus being just straight like a life fiber like these other ones have been.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really interesting. And I think it made to me it made the alien aspect understandable and very doable. Like it made it so that it didn't feel too overwhelming, because then it's like, well, why is this one? It's like Venom. Like the fact that Venom is considered an anti-hero. I mean, he is an anti-hero, but like the fact that Venom can come in and is just this perfectly fine like symbiote and doesn't want to harm like people that aren't innocent because his host says no, versus all the other symbiotes that we see throughout that whole Marvel universe, all of them are just like kill, kill, kill.
Yeah.
That to me, like, I love the character, but it seems a little random. Whereas this was, hey, he was manufactured in this way and was designed specifically for this one person to wear.
Yes.
I thought that, to me, solidified the whole thing and made it make sense.
Yeah, it's taking something that is this organic space life form and then like manufacturing it in such a way where, oh, you're not that anymore, you're something else.
Yeah. And I love that he got to have a reaction.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where like he was just created and then was shit happens minutes after he gets finalized.
Oh yeah, he's finalized.
The father dies, the one who created him,
within a minute, easily.
Within minutes at most, and is just hidden away. The facility crumbles on top of him
in a massive fire,
and then is found, put on,
and that's like 6 months later.
Yeah, like 6 to 12 months later, and is now just kind of learning how to use its powers alongside Ryuko, and they're just going off of instinct at this point. It's just flat instinct. Like it knows that it needs her blood to continue doing things, but in its eyes, any blood will do. We're good.
Like, for example, in Instinct, back to the fight with the Elite Four, when she's fighting the female member of the Elite Four, Jakuzure.
Yeah, I had that same issue.
She is like, oh, well, if they can fly, why can't I? And then she can fly.
Yeah.
She just turns into a jet.
That's another one of those things that when you're watching it that first time, you're like, what the fuck? Why can this just happen? And then you get to the end of the show, and you're like, alrighty, you were setting me up to understand this later.
Yeah.
I get this now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% was like throughout that show, I was like, why does this, anything she needs to happen, she can just figure it out. And it was a little
I
annoying.
don't have my sword anymore. My arm's a sword now.
Yeah.
I just have claws. Or, I I am a flying jet with claws and sword arms.
Yeah.
What do I want to do today?
Yeah, but overall, I think it progressed really fucking well, and it's one of those things that like it does really great for a first time watch because there are twists and turns, but then it's one of those things where when you go back and rewatch it, there's hints towards it, so that when you rewatch it, you're like, there's that thing that leads into this thing, and that was so well done throughout the whole show, even with any of the like filler bits. Like it's so weird that it feels like there's a ton of filler, but there's really not.
There's really not. No,
like it all leads to something.
And when we say filler, like it's just sections of a single episode.
Yeah,
there are 25 total episodes. This is a very short anime. This isn't some Naruto BS where they literally have an arc of 25 episodes that are literally filler and are never spoken of again. Like, this isn't traditional anime filler. This is maybe 5 or 6 minutes in an episode. The filler is just... It's 6 minutes, but then it was important later on.
Yeah.
You see it later and you're like, oh, that was important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, overall, yeah, like I've said so many times already, like it leads up into everything so well. For me, I think one of the only real issues I had with this show was some of the naming conventions, and then some of that over the top sexualization at times. But by the end of it, all those random type situations that I came into this 100% ready to be like, this show is so fucking random, and I didn't get it. Like, there was so many times I was like, why the fuck is this happening? But yeah, by the end of it, it really does make sense. And so I came into this podcast, like, before I finished it last night, I was ready to be like, what the fuck, Gavin? What did you have me sit through? But like, it really does flow through very solidly. I think it worked really, really well.
It ties up a lot of its ends.
Yes.
It takes a bit to do it, but it ties up a lot of
its ends. And that's something that I think we don't see enough in storytelling, where there's so many shows that either try to, like, they have a big storyline and they need to put a bunch of filler in there to make it last longer, or they have to rush things because they only get a 10-episode season or whatever it is. So that's something that I think some of these animes can do so very, very well, is a lot of them are in that kind of 20-ish episode range.
Yeah.
And it's a format that they've done for a long time and know how to put in place. And it's like, American TV treats things so weirdly because it's all about how much money are we currently making. Like, it's not about what's a story we can tell. It's, hey, you've got a story that somewhat interests me. Let's give you 10 episodes. If it's doing well, we'll give you a second season. And there's so many shows that have made it from that, but there's so many shows that have failed because of that. Like, you look at something like Firefly that could have very well kept going, but it didn't get the episodes that it needed in a time before the internet was as popular as it was. And then you look at shows like Parks and Recreation, where if you go back and watch that initial first season, it is 10 episodes long. And I like it, but compare that to literally any other season in the show, it's not very good.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Okay. But like, in general, it's a completely different show.
Perfect
in the
example.
First 10 episodes.
I couldn't get into Parks and Rec.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, it could have so easily just have been canceled after 10 episodes instead of it going for, I think, 6 or 7 seasons, which it did.
Yeah.
And there's like, it has a very big following. And it's just one of those things that, like, yeah, if they just take it at face value, boom, done, out. And it's just, it's such a weird way that we run things.
And then there's this anime where the first episode, it uses a lot of the major sort of, like, not storytelling points, but just like dynamic telling points. There's a lot of dynamic size changes. So in one scene, Iragamagori, and I'm not joking, the first minute of watching the first episode, Iragamagori looms over the entire room And it is physically represented that he is actually physically moving over the entire room and that how big he is. But it's all just like a metaphor for that is how dominating his will at that moment.
Yeah.
And that just continues throughout the entire series. There are, and it's not just Gamagori, whenever a character is like doing their monologue or doing like they are
zoomed in, it's
them, and it's them looming over other things, and that's how they like kind of show, oh, this is an important scene for this character. But like they do that first minute.
They utilize a lot of tropes very, very well and very aggressively.
And right away.
Yeah.
And so with the first episode, you kind of know what you're getting, but at the same time, you really don't. It goes from 9 to 11. It doesn't start at 1.
Yeah.
It was flooring it before you let go of the art. Like, it was going. Yeah. There was no way this wasn't stopping.
No, it presses on the gas. And there are a few moments where it lets off, but it never hits the brakes.
No.
There is not a moment that this show hits the brakes.
Mm-mm.
Unless, like, the few moments you could say, like, there is a stop or a slow is when they hit a wall.
It was right after the fight with the mother in the school at the crucifixion, and then, like... Yeah. Completely destroyed.
When her suit, or when Ryuko's suit gets destroyed, like that's
she hits a wall for an episode, then finds her way back.
But there's storytelling points.
Yeah,
and then it guns it again.
But
it's
then,
like, nope, we're getting back in.
Even further after that, the entire anime feels like, oh, maybe it's taken a back seat. There becomes a moment where Ryuko actually learns what she is and what Sanketsu is. So Ryuko and Satsuki, spoiler alert, are sisters. Both of them are the daughters of Ragyo Kiryuin, and
who is the main villain of the series.
Yes, and there were supposedly 3 children, but the first one died. And the first one died because, well, the first one was Satsuki. Then the second one died because the mother is trying to experiment. Oh,
and she was putting life fibers in the body.
We need to splice life fibers with this human as an infant, because that is when humans have the biggest resistance to them, so that if they were to grow up, they would then be able to wear these kamuis and be able to, like, be invincible. Satsuki, by the way, has no life fibers embedded in her body. She is a regular human. However, she can still wear a kamui.
Yeah.
Which is a completely impressive mark to do.
That's one of those things where they show you her force of will throughout the whole series, and it shows off through action. Like it shows off, like, she is able to do this, and she is able to continue growing with these kamui as well, and she's able to get a lot of potential out of these things, even though she is just a flat human.
She's just a human, and she can do these things that these superhumans and alien beings can do.
Yeah.
Specifically because she wants that power to control for her own. She doesn't want others to be above her. And it just... The big wall that it kind of hits right after the big fight with Satsuki's mom. Satsuki gets taken captive, and the school is left in shambles. Nobody has any Goku uniforms, and they're left to fight alongside with this amazing group called Nudist Beach.
I cannot believe we still haven't touched on Nudist. Like, we're going for like 48 minutes at this point. We've not even touched on Nudist Beach.
And Nudist Beach is introduced episode 5 or 6, somewhere around there.
Yes and no. He very, very briefly says his name.
Words.
Yeah. He says that the organization he is from, and by he we mean, we haven't even touched on this guy. One of the teachers at the school, the only actual teacher. Yeah, we haven't had any water. But the only real teacher you ever see at the school isn't a real teacher. He is a fake teacher who was placed there by this organization called Nudist Beach to keep watch on it and keep watch of Sasuke to figure out what she is trying to do and figure out how they're using these Goku uniforms and the life fibers. It has been such a weird journey throughout that whole bit. And then just hearing him utter the words nudist beach, and then he repeats it multiple times because she doesn't believe him, is such a weird situation.
And every time he says it, it's a very
nudist
specific way.
Beach.
It's nudist beach.
Yeah, it's so weird, and there's a strange Frenchness to it.
Even in like the dub, where they're not speaking Japanese.
Yeah.
They say it with a Japanese accent because it's comedy.
Yeah. And it is comedy. I laugh almost every time.
Yes,
it's phenomenal.
It's a phenomenal show. The character's name is Mikisugi, and he is the leader of Nudist Beach. He is alongside Hinagase, who is a lot of people in the show call him Mohawk Guy because he has a bright red mohawk. He kind of has a tragic story. His sister is completely eviscerated by life fibers. She was trying to perform an experiment while creating a kamui, and she dies because of it. And so she died during the progress to make Ryuko's kamui.
Yeah.
And when they learn that, that's when this wall happens. After the school is left shambles, Satsuki's nowhere to be seen, the Elite Four are scattered and they're trying to kind of fend for themselves. They all eventually join up with Nudist Beach and they go on a rescue mission to get back Satsuki. But during that, there's almost an entire episode where she refuses to put on Senketsu. Because
it really is an entire episode minus the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just that's I would feel the only time that this anime is like, oh, we're at a red light quick.
And it serves a purpose. It's one of those things where if something is constantly doing this and then it does it just stops, you take notice. And it was designed that way. It's designed to make you really question who this character is and what these life fibers are and do before they go into great detail on it.
Yeah.
At this point, you're just now barely starting to grasp what these characters are. And it makes you question everything before they actually tell you, so that you have these weird theories and you come up with what it could possibly be. And then
it just is oh, this is what it is.
Yeah. And there's no way you would have gotten there by yourself. And it's so much fun. It leads you on a journey. It's really well done.
And then ever since that episode, then it just becomes this is when I would say that this is the typical section of the anime where it's depicting an enormous fight and the fight only lasts maybe 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
But it's the rest of the anime. And by this point, you're at episode 15?
There is a gap. There's a month gap.
Yeah.
So because there is that big fight, and then they lose.
Yes, they lose. Oh my gosh. This is where Nuye comes in, and Nuye is this. I don't want to call her a demon, but she's a demon.
She's a synthetic person. She's been made out of life.
Yes, she was not born. She was crafted as she is just life fibers.
Yeah.
There was no birth and then splicing as a baby with Ryuko. Ragyo was just I want to make this, and made that.
Who's Ragyo?
And this is where one of my favorite sort of animation decisions comes into play. In a lot of big moments with Nuye, you see her character as a JPEG floating across the screen. And to me, that is this. She is so powerful, you can't comprehend how she's moving in that universe. Well, and they do that. There's a couple things.
There's lots of things that they do in this show that vary. They have a specific anime style, animation style, and then there's moments where they just stop. One of the fights that they have with her and Ryuko, they're literally showing a flat background, and every once in a while an image will pop up of them fighting. Their blades will clash, and then it'll skip, and then blades will clash. but they're holding a full conversation throughout and making the full battle sounds. And it's such a unique way to show how fast and how furious they're fighting in a similar way that like Dragon Ball Z does it, but with even less animation to it.
Yes.
And it's oddly powerful.
Oh yes. No, you see things happen and you're like, oh my god, how it's ridiculous. Like, to your point, they literally are screaming in the background, making hot swing noises while they're just monologuing at each other in furious battle. Yeah. Like shredding each other to pieces, and they're just talking as if nothing's happening. And you hear them screaming. Like, the fight scenes in this are incredible.
They really are. I love the fight scenes throughout the entire show. Like, I can't name a single one that wasn't entertaining. Mm-hmm. Like, from the first one you really get with the boxer all the way through to the final battle. The final battle. Yeah. Which happens in space. I've got to say, while we're getting to the final battle here, there's like 10 minutes between what I thought was the final battle and what actually is the final battle. Yeah. And I almost wish, like, if it wasn't for a few things that happen in between the two fights, I kind of wish they had ended with the fight before. Like, I kind of wish that they had just killed her off and that was the end of the fight. Mm-hmm. Overall, I enjoyed the final fight scene, but I liked the ending before that. Yeah. But then we get things like Mako asking Ryuko out on a date, which honestly one of my favorite parts of that whole freaking episode. Yes. Like, they go through all these crazy fucking fights and battles, and it's nonstop action. And then they're just like, hey. Maybe 10 minutes before the end of the final episode. Yeah, like, they had a crazy big fight. Everybody almost died. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go up there and fight this on my own now. And she's like, hey, like, come back to me. I want to go on a date with you. And when you get back, let's go on a date. Yeah, and she's like, let's do it. Yes, let's go. It was just genuine, simple. It felt natural. They did such a good job. Like, it was one of those things where throughout the entire series, they're constantly showing that they have this relationship, and it is a friendship. But it's one of those things where, like, if the male and female character in a show were friends throughout the entire show and then they start dating, there was nothing forced like many shows do. Yeah. It's the same kind of way that I think in Captain Marvel 2, if they go straight into her and that pilot being in a relationship and they don't bring it up and they don't talk about it and they just do it, that's the same kind of a level of, like, relationship growth that I see. Mm-hmm. You see them being friends. You see them care for each other and love each other, but they don't have to make it this big, drawn out, like, will they, won't they? You don't need any of that. Yeah, it's just casually thrown in there. It's just like, oh, you see two people building a relationship with each other. Like, you know I love you. I can tell you love me. Throughout the entire series, Ryuko has these outbursts and struggles to keep control, and it's always Mako able to help her, and vice versa when Mako goes ballistic with this whole money-hungry thing. Yeah. It's Ryuko who's just like showing her what they have and what the family was like. And at no point before that did it feel like this was going to be a relationship. It just felt like they have this great friendship, but it didn't feel like it couldn't be. Like, it flowed so naturally, and I loved it. I genuinely thought they did such a great job with the relationships in that show throughout the entire thing. It's the same kind of way that we talk about, like, the character growth and how they did it with Satsuki earlier, of when she comes out to be the good guy, even though she was supposed to be the villain at the start of it. It never felt like her objectives didn't change. No. Her objectives stay the same throughout the entire thing. We got more detail of that objective, but you never really know until she turns on her mother. Yeah. Her objective is to stop her mother. It's to get this power using her school. And the entire time, like, you can tell, every time Gamagori is like, I'll stop her, Satsuki, she's like, no, let her fight the other people, because she knows what's about to happen. She knows that she's just training
Ryuko to become this incredibly powerful ally so that they have a chance at the end. And there's a very powerful scene. So somewhere in the fray after the school is destroyed and they kind of join Nudist Beach and the mother is like this unstoppable force.
Things get weird for
it's like
3 episodes.
2 or 3 episodes,
yeah.
and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Ryuko gets completely brainwashed. Yeah. The mother gets in her head and is like, "Oh, look at this beautiful dress that I made for you," and so she puts on the other kamui, Junketsu, which stands for purity. And it's this whole thing where you see her kind of, I am not human, so I don't care. What do I care if the world destroys? Yeah. I'm a life fiber, I'll survive. And then the only way that she can fight back, Satsuki puts on Sanketsu, and they're wearing the opposite uniform. It's very weird to see it like that. There's this enormous fight, and it ends with, like, again, Mako being the one to save Ryuga. And then at no point in the show do you ever see Satsuki bow down to anyone, and she bows down to Ryuko.
Yeah.
Because she has this moment of realization being like, I have made a mistake. I didn't realize that you were going to be such a powerful asset to me. I didn't realize that you were an ally of this caliber. I was just going to use you as a tool, but you're more than that.
Yeah, that was the big thing, is her big coming out of, I use everybody as a tool.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big moment for her of this huge realization. Well, not even realization to her, because she knew she did this.
Oh yeah, no. From the beginning, she's been using people like tools because that is what they are to her, and she very well knows it.
And she then realized how that could be wrong, which is a strange thing to say, because
I wouldn't say she realized it how it could be wrong. More or less, like, she realized maybe she should learn about a person.
Yeah.
And then, if she's gonna use them, at least, like...
But see, there was, like...
care about them, because she cares about the Elite Four.
I mean, yes, but by the end of it, she wasn't using them anymore. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they listened to her commands and all that kind of stuff, but it was
That's
different.
out of their loyalty.
Exactly.
That's out of their...
It was different.
Like, whole thing. Like,
it wasn't like
following her.
Yeah, it wasn't like the first 3/4 of that show where it was just like, they'll do what I want, what happens, happens. Even though she did still care, it was still a matter of, if something happens, it happens. Mm-hmm. She grew, and she's like, they're not just tools. They are people. They have their own beliefs. They have their own reasons for what they're doing. Yeah. And she respected it more.
And it just happened like a switch in that one episode. It wasn't like building up to it. It's just all of a sudden she has this moment where she realizes that. And so another amazing thing is, after this thing and the Elite Four see Satsuki in this vulnerable position, Satsuki is like, if you accept my apology, punch me as hard as you can, full force. And Ryuko goes to wind up a punch, and Gamagori pops up out of nowhere, takes the punch fully to the face, and gets launched across an enormous ship. She gets mad, throws another punch, and then that's when Sanagayama pops up and gets punched. And she's like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And Iragamagori gets mad at her, not for punching him, but not for... He's now mad at her.
For not using full force.
And she's like, that was my full force. And he's like, no, it's not, or I'd be dead.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the moment where, like, even though they knew that they were tools to her, they still had so much loyalty that
they're ready to die.
Knew that if this is her full force, I'm going to die from this. And he was never going to die, because she's not going to kill her at this point. Ryuko's not going to kill Satsuki.
No.
They have this crazy final fight #1 with Mother on this giant gourd-like projectile.
I love Final Fight #1, but it's accurate.
It's accurate. Final Fight #1. There's then Final Fight #2, where the Mother isn't a part of it, where they're taking back the school, And then there's final fight number 3, which happens when, and I quote, "Let me wear all of your uniforms at once," and Ryuko absorbs all of the life fibers. It's the cheesy ending moment.
It really was. It was the, like, Goku moment of Spirit Bomb.
Yeah.
And it was... That's one of the reasons I felt I wish it had ended before that. Because that was out of place. It was this big moment to just have a big moment.
I feel like was the only gripe I have with the entire series myself.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have still been an epic moment without it being cheesy.
I also liked the two sisters beating her together while still utilizing the way that they're able to make things happen. I think that worked really, really well together. Mm-hmm. And then now it was just like, oh, now it's all Ryuko, which I get it. She's the main character, but I liked how they did it.
Yeah.
And I also liked that she wasn't the main character for the whole show. Like, she never wasn't, but she was one of 2 main characters.
Yeah.
Satsuki really, like, it went from being protagonist versus antagonist to protagonists versus antagonist. And I liked that.
Yes.
It was out of the norm. It was...
You don't have just one leading force. It's not like, this is Naruto, or this is the character. This is like, oh, these are the 2 people who are going to win.
Yeah, and it ended up being that moment where nobody else can beat her. Everybody leave. Goku, go do this. And I just... It's fine.
Yeah.
But I liked the differences.
Yeah.
I liked that it was different. But then again, like I said... They didn't really have a place to put all the stuff before that of the whole team really saying, like, you can do this, like, we put our trust in you. Mm-hmm. So it was nice to have that moment in between. So there's pluses, there's downsides, like, overall...
It ends on a very touching note.
It's still good.
It ends, like, not many anime will bring a tear to my eye. The very end of that, like, the final moments of that episode...
That was nice.
It was touching. It wasn't like a, oh no. It was like a, oh my gosh, this is such a nice way to end the anime.
Minus one of the things. Because I miss him.
Yeah.
Why, Gavin?
Yeah.
Throughout that whole, like, there were so many moments where I thought they were going to kill off characters, and I was like, yeah, cool. Bye, Gamagori. No! They let everybody fucking live until the one villain kills herself, and then
yeah, that's the other weird thing about that battle.
I did like
it
that.
all goes crazy, and you realize, oh, even with all of this power, she can't be beaten. And then she just pulls her own heart out because she's like, oh, well, I'm fucking tired of this, and then just kills herself. Crushes her heart, and then she just evaporates, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, they're in space.
So, yeah, they're in space, and so, because they're in space and doing all this crazy shit, Ryuko is maxed out on power.
Yeah.
And so, Senketsu realizes this before she does, because when she's in this mode, she really doesn't
She has no sense of when her tank is on empty.
Yeah, essentially, Senketsu is drawing blood from her.
Continuously.
And so he's able to really feel where she's at physically more than anything else. And he quickly flies them down and charges towards the Earth.
Using himself as a shield, because on re-entry...
Going through the atmosphere.
Flames.
Yeah, and so between this weakened state and using his entire body or clothes body to cover this damage, he burns up in the atmosphere, and there's a really nice touching back and forth between them as they go, and that was genuinely really sad.
Yeah,
like,
that was a good touching moment. I teared up a little bit.
Yeah, like,
you grew to love the character.
You really did. And they were never more in sync, which was the entire point, was that they're now in sync. Let's take one away. It's very much like any other show that has some sort of like a twin or some other like relationship where 2 people are supposed to become one kind of a situation. One of them has to die.
Yeah. Or
the storyteller is just not utilizing your emotions in as much of a fun way as they'd like to. And it's frustrating, but also great fucking storytelling.
Yeah.
Like, you leave that depressed, but also satisfied. Like, it's done. That's the end. You know it's the end. And what's interesting to me about that being the end was there is this looming threat that Ragio kind of says, like, life fibers won't be done after this. Like, they're throughout the universe. They're constantly searching and growing.
She drops a line where it's like, oh, this was just one of many planets being completely destroyed by these. More will come.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, we're ready. We're ready for this.
And then that whole thing happens. So if they do end up trying to do something in the future, it'd be very interesting to see what they end up doing, because Senketsu's dead.
He is, but like at the same time, both of them were growing at like with each other.
Yeah.
The moment where she's getting back her Kamui, she still was able to take on the Elite Four at that moment
Without him.
I mean, she didn't fight them one-on-one, but she would go in, she didn't take a single hit, and she would be able to steal back the pieces and make Senketsu again. So, like, she, in her own right, is incredibly powerful, and it is because she is spliced with life fiber. Was one of the experimental babies. And so it was the thing where, like, even without Senketsu, I don't think they're going to go back to this because it's been 7 years.
I highly doubt it. But just as a matter of, like, they let this slip. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, now that we've kind of gone through everything, there's some fun stuff to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'm very much into it.
So, like I said earlier, the English dub was nominated for awards because of how good the ensemble was. There are notable characters. Ryuko is voiced by the same person who voices Sailor Uranus. I forget her name. You found a fun one.
Yeah, the voice actress for Mako was both Lux in League of Legends as well as Mokubo Kaiba from the Yu-Gi-Oh dub, which I love. Like, first off, Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole is just great in terms of, like, the original series, at least.
It's fun.
And I love it. It's a lot of fun. I've never watched the Japanese the Japanese dub with English subs, which I know is darker, but it's a fun little kids show when you watch it in English.
Yeah.
And I always loved Mokuba, so that was a really fun thing for me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool.
And I think one of my favorite things is Matt Mercer is in this show.
Who doesn't love Matthew Mercer?
Matthew Mercer is great. He voices Mikisugi, which is the teacher. He kind of goes from this kind of like a frumpy sort of like, oh, I'm just a teacher, to this like very suave, styled hair. He has glowing purple nipples every time you see him.
Yeah, the multiple times where he's getting like completely naked and then there's just like glowing lights and like glowing penis. Like, it's weird.
The only time you actually see like full-on peen is like if it's that cartoonish little W looking thing. You never see like a detailed.
It's a very strange bit.
There's nudity all over the place, but it has either smoke or light to cover up
the very like parts. Sailor Moonish.
Yeah, and a big thing is every time you see nipples, there are like purple star on them. Every time. But other thing like Matt Mercer, who doesn't know what he does, but I think one of my favorite things is Matt Mercer also voices Crom, which in Smash Bros. Yeah. And in everything Crom is a part of in English. Yeah. He also voices Joker.
Oh, yeah.
In Smash Bros.
Yeah. He's also in Overwatch. He's
McCree?
McCree, I believe.
Or
no. Shit. Is he McCree or is he Reaper?
I think he's Reaper.
I think he's Reaper.
I think
he's Reaper.
Pretty sure. I don't remember. I don't.
Either way, he's
It's Matt Mercer. It's Matt Mercer. He has his own like
does a lot.
D&D podcast.
Critical Role, as everybody knows.
I don't watch it, but I have friends who every single night are watching either.
He's McCree. We got confirmation of McCree.
McCree.
Yeah, so McCree. Okay.
Oh, even Max said that. Cool.
I mean, he does like cowboys. So.
Makes sense. There and it's just overall like every time. Like even not in the Mako moments, the English voice actor has these like fun, great little things where Mako is trying to run after one of the buses, and you just hear her voice trail off. She's speaking, and like it's just these cute moments. Like the English voice acting is so good.
Hi, Josh. For me, sound was one of the biggest things. Like more so than animation, sound was so important in this anime.
And the score was phenomenal.
Exactly, sound as a whole. Like the voice acting was great. The fight sounds, everything about that. But then the music, the intro songs, the outro songs were great. But then just all of the fight music, every song throughout the show was in the right place. It was just great. Like I could not have asked for better music. Like it was amazing.
It really sets the scene, like when it's all is going right and all of a sudden you like turn around and you're facing off against Ragyo and then it plays her theme.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most ominous thing. And so because I'm absolutely in love with this anime, I have this on Spotify. Like I play the Spotify. I drove over here listening to Kill music.
Getting ready.
It was a 30-minute drive. It's fun. I can play it all. And there are lines in the music that really just relate to how Ragyo views everything. Where, like, she's talking about, I'm grooming you for success. I'm grooming you to be powerful. I'm grooming you to follow after me. If you're not strong enough, I don't care about you. You need to leave. And it just, the music, even though it's in other languages and I don't speak it, when I listen to it in English, I can tell that thought was put into the lyrics of these songs.
Yeah.
They have a lot of different scores that are just great for setting the scene, where you can tell if it's going to be a fun fight, if it's going to be an important fight, if it's going to be a very dramatic fight.
Yeah, they really set it up before it actually starts. You can kind of tell where it's going.
You can be like, oh shit, this is going to be important.
Yeah.
And it's I don't think there's a single character that I like dislike, but
yeah, I can't really think of anybody I dislike. If anything, I would just say like the brother and Guts for Mako's family.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the brother.
Yeah,
Guts can give or take. I feel that the brother does play an important role.
He does. Sometimes he brings in some good moments that are needed, like the bit where he paints on his suit that he got.
Yeah, there's a moment where they have to attend the tournament for the who's going to be on the Elite Four. Of course, it's the Elite Four, but this is all just a setup. And they are told to wear these outfits. They're like, here is your uniform that you're going to wear. And the kid goes off and pawns it and then paints it on.
Right away.
And
I think technically it's because that was the first fight battle thing.
Yeah, because no, you're right. This was when
this was when the mother was coming.
And it's like this is after the all school trip raid.
Yeah.
The mother's there, they're holding a conference and she's going to like take over.
This was the big flip.
Yes.
Where we see Satsuke be the like.
And the only person in the crowd who's like not taken over by clothes at this moment is this little boy. He pawned his shit off.
Yeah, it's fantastic. He's just like, ah!
And he's freaking out, and he's like pretending that he's not there. It was all pretty quick, but
yeah.
Oh no, I love this. It's a great anime. I watched it upwards of a few times. Like, I don't want to say how many, maybe like 9.
Honestly, there's so many shows that I've watched more times. Like, there's so many shows that are longer than that I've watched so many times. Not longer, but it's I think like 10 or 12 episodes. Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist came out last year.
Yeah,
I've seen season 1 3 times.
That was fun. I like that one too.
We can talk about that one of these days too, because I would love to, especially when season 2 is over, which already 1 episode in. Cried. We're good. But yes, fantastic. Like, it's a good solid. Is it 25? I thought it was 24 for some reason. And now I'm losing my mind. Because you said 25 like 3 times. And I'm not sure. But regardless, great, solid length show. Easy to get through in 1 to 2 weeks with no real, like you're watching 3 episodes a night-ish. Like, it's not hard to do.
Oh, I watched it in a weekend.
Well, yeah, you can.
I'm a lunatic now, so like,
I mean,
wake up at 11, fall asleep at 11, watch it the entire day.
But that's what I mean. Is like it's easy to do in a binge session. It's easy to do throughout a couple of weeks. It's easy to do in a month. Like it's something that is not super long, so it doesn't feel daunting. It's not super short, so it's not like, oh, now that's over. Like, it's a good length. It's really good.
You kind of like it tricks your mind into thinking that you've watched it longer than you have.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's like episode 10 and you're like, we're not on episode 50. What's happening?
Yeah. So much detail gets just shoved in so quickly.
Anime, amongst people who have heard of it or people who know about it or have watched it, all say the same thing. It is known for its absolutely breakneck pace.
Yeah.
Like, you're experiencing the first major fight 2 episodes in. You're experiencing another big fight 2 more episodes in. And it just keeps packing more and more of this stuff in. And it is only 25 episodes, but it feels like you've watched something a lot longer.
It's crazy how well it does it. Like, it doesn't feel overwhelming at any point. Like, it genuinely feels like you're getting all the information you need. And like I kind of said before, like there's definitely moments when on this first watch through where things don't make sense.
Oh yeah.
And they're not supposed to.
No.
And you're like, this is really weird. Why am I watching this? And then it gets to the next bit and you're like, oh, okay, that was cool.
And like you'll see that, like, if you give it a watch and watch it the first time fully through, you're gonna be like, oh, I'm pretty sure I grabbed most of it. You didn't.
No.
Watch it again.
Yeah, no, I definitely in probably 6 months or so I'm probably gonna rewatch it.
No, definitely. I'm probably gonna watch it in another week.
So you're probably gonna rewatch it. I'm gonna start it tonight.
I might. I don't work tomorrow. I might. I binged Tiger King in a day. That was a mistake.
I'm so happy I have not watched Tiger King.
Watch that next. We'll talk about
Tiger
that.
King anime?
Please no.
Can we anime-ize?
Tiger King anime would be the same sort of feeling of Kill la Kill.
That's what I figured.
But it would be a garbage fire, and I would hate every moment of it.
Okay.
After watching Tiger King, this is side related. We're talking about other things, tangent. I have newly found understanding of what hate actually means.
Okay.
There are people I have never met that I want dead.
Is this from Tiger King or just a separate?
From Tiger King.
Okay.
Specific.
Is it people in Tiger King or people that have come out of the woodworks because of Tiger King?
In Tiger King.
In Tiger King. Okay.
Yeah. Pseudo.
Carol fucking Baskins.
She's not the worst.
Okay.
She's pretty bad. She's not the worst.
I know nothing about these people. Thankfully.
The only redeeming character is the transgendered person who gets their arm ripped off by a tiger. Watch it for that.
I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, they then went back to work because they love the tigers.
They went back.
I'm not joking. Like
What?
2 days after being in the hospital, went back to work.
You gotta. What the?
It was short.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, their arm was short. Jesus Christ. It was short. That's insane. I love them so much. Take my other arm. Fucking
It was
Jesus.
more like I love them so much, and clearly they're not getting the care, and I need to help give them the care.
Clearly they're not getting the care.
If you watch it, you'll
I mean,
understand.
it's true if they're ripping off people's arms, but I mean, it's the same thing as like adopting animals that have been abused and whatnot.
Yeah. Care for them.
Yeah.
Because nobody else is
You'll
doing
get bit and get hurt, but it's not their fault.
Yeah.
So I get it, but like,
and
I don't think I could go back after having my arm removed from my body.
It was like just above the elbow.
Not helping. Sorry, half my arm. My goodness. Like, Gavin, this amount of my arm that's about to be in that camera is now gone.
Yeah.
No.
Because munch.
Because munch. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I could not.
Yeah.
I could not.
Also, quasi-cult sex rings with tiger ladies. It's like 6 episodes. Watch it.
I thought, for a moment, I thought you were saying 6 episodes on that.
No, the entire thing.
I was like, holy shit. This is detailed. I don't need that much detail.
Have you seen Stefan from Saturday Night Live?
Tis but a flesh. Seen what?
Stefan from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
It was like, it has... He could do a segment of just Tiger King. And it would be as if he's doing his normal segment of just spewing random shit. Because that's all it is.
You know what I would really like to see happen one of these days, just because we're on, like when you brought up Stefan, it made me think of Mulaney, because John Mulaney was constantly writing for Stefan and trying to make him crack. I would love to watch an anime dubbed over, like kind of like what they did with, is it Ghost Stories? Where they just, like, the anime was just, like, it was so stupid that they were just like, yeah, there's no story to tell here. We're just going to make the stupidest, cringiest bullshit we can and have fun with it.
Max showed that to me.
I want to watch some weirdly serious fucking anime about a weird topic that makes no sense, like Ghost Stories, and then just put a bunch of, like, stand-up comedians in it.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for that.
Like, Big Mouth, but serious action anime. Like,
yeah, Big Mouth, but action.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
So, if anybody's got any suggestions of weirdly serious animes that are really bad, we should look into that and get hiring. Fine, let's find these people. Let's dub it over.
Oh, I'm sure Max.
But I'm sure he can.
Max is a part of all sorts of groups. I will ask for very interesting things, and he will find them in 10 minutes.
But yeah, that's my dream right there. Already got one. The Legend of
There you go, Max.
Kazumi.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think that would be amazing. And that was just the first thing that popped in my head when we brought up Stefan. But yeah, overall, I would say with this show,
what would you rate it?
That's what I'm trying to think.
Out of 10.
Out of 10, I would go probably around a 7. Like, it wasn't the best anime ever, but it was well above average.
Oh, yeah.
Like, between 7 and 9. Very easily. I don't know if I would give it a solid 8, but between there, somewhere, like, it...
Varies by episode.
Yeah, it does.
Some episodes are a solid 9, some episodes are a little bit lower.
Yeah. And there's definitely episodes in that show that I could just watch that episode. Like, if I used that strange... So I've only tried this once when I was setting up my speakers, but Netflix has a shuffle button.
I don't think I like that.
That's everybody's consensus. I was like, I need to fucking try this shit. So I was setting up my sound system, and I was like, I just need something to play in the background while I plug shit in. And so I hit shuffle, and it brought up Supernatural, which, like, whatever, season 6, don't care. But, like, if it just played a random episode of Kill la Kill, I'd be in.
Yeah, like, if it was on Toonami, and all of a sudden you're just tuning in, and they weren't running it as a series, they were just like, oh, tonight we're watching this.
And that's my only experience with Kill la Kill before this last couple weeks.
Really?
Is because it played on Toonami. And it would sometimes pop up, and I'd be like, oh, what's this? And we'd, like... I remember seeing bits and pieces on Toonami of like what the fuck is happening and not understanding anything. But it's entertaining.
Yeah, and until Max showed this to me, I had never even heard of it.
Oh, okay.
This was, not joking, until this point, the only anime I had watched, and this is, keep in mind, like right about when it came out, so years ago, 7 or so years ago.
Okay.
Until then, I had only watched things like Full Metal Alchemist, Naruto, Bleach, like stereotypical you're a weeb sort of anime, because when I first learned about anime, it was in high school, and the only people who talk about it were weebs. I had no other input.
Fair.
And then I spent pretty much, I stayed with Max for like a summer in his house. I became their adopted child. And he's like, want to see this anime. It's the same people, or it has like some people who helped make it. Who also
that
made,
like, was it like Trigger something?
There were a couple of them. I know Gurren Lagann was one of them.
Studio is Trigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there were a couple other ones.
Thank you again, Max.
Max knows too much.
He put that earlier.
Yeah.
I saw it earlier in the chat. I was like, I know he already answered this.
But until then had only watched very basic anime. And after that, I told Max that, hey, I am not a big fan of mech. I like supernatural sort of things, so like powers, abilities, things like that, cool weapons. Show me something. And he showed me this. And ever since, it's been one of my top 5. I have a special soft spot for things like Brotherhood, but I personally put this above Brotherhood just because it's short, it's concise, it really takes you on a wild ride, and every time I watch it, it feels like I'm watching it for the first time.
My anime list, because I don't watch a lot of anime, my anime list that I watch is all over the fucking place. Like, I watch some of those like harem shows. Like, some of my favorites are Tenchi Muyo and Universe, and all the other ones very similar, and I can't think of the name. Either way, yeah, I like a lot of those because they're just fun and random. But it's that issue that I normally have, like that I felt like I was going to have with this show from not knowing a ton about it, was I thought it was just going to be like, here's a lot of sexual stuff all the time for no fucking reason. And that was kind of the case in this show. But it was that same situation where it's used mostly as a parody. Like, it was well done.
It's never like, oh, look, sexualizing this.
There's a few times where it's very much like, this is very pervy. But at the same time, they're calling it out. Like, it's...
Yes.
It's so weird.
With Irigami Gori, during that fight, they're constantly being like, you big perv.
Yeah. Or Mohawk Guy. Mohawk Guy, the first few times you see him, he's just a giant fucking perv. But it's really the hatred of it is what it ends up being. And it's again, the way they do things without telling you what they're doing is so subversive. Like, they're constantly showing you something and then telling you another thing. Like, I love it. I genuinely did like that a lot.
Yes.
On that sexualization topic, for me, one of the things I was talking about other animes like Death Note, like all over the place with stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, the thing I really liked about the show that was super sexualized, but in a way that all of those like sailor type uniform things are, was the transformations in the show were so cool.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing with like Power Rangers, where you go through and you're like, okay, we've seen this, we get it. But you're still fine watching it. Like, it's still entertaining.
It's still fun.
For some fucking reason, them throwing up a morphing coin, I'm still fucking in.
And one of my favorite parts about it is, like, when all of the Elite Four, all at once, got their final Goku uniforms, they all jump into the air and transform together. Like, there's no Megazord in this. But, like,
I thought for a moment it was going to be. Like they made it seem like it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of in for it. Being a Power Rangers fan, I was like, yes, let's do this.
But like they
Trinity 7
change how all of this kind of they change the transformation sequence up. So in moments where they're like, oh, I have to do this quick, they fast forward through it and they show you a fast forwarded version of the transformation. Yeah. And when it's like, oh, all of these people are doing it at once, all of them do it at once. And their animation is like together. They're all together and stars are hitting them from all over the place. And then they all turn into their own own Goku uniform. But my favorite part is when they like fast forward through the transformation, because it's like, gotta go fast.
For me, so first off, I just want to quickly go, since we're on Goku uniforms, Mako's 3-star Goku uniform with her like little like just her outfit was amazing,
without a doubt.
Amazing.
Also, that in my opinion was like, all anime has a scene where all of a sudden the very most unassuming character becomes one of the most terrifying.
They talk
threats.
about it. They specify it.
They specify it in a way where, it pokes fun. It's over 9,000, but they're analyzing Mako in her uniform.
Yeah, they're like, she's no threat.
Like, why is she so powerful? And it's because
the potential.
Her mind has a score of 0, but all of her other stats are maxed.
Yeah, like
they're all like 99999.
They show it before that, and they're like, she's got nothing going for her, and then the potential for growth is what she brings to this table.
Yeah, and that's what the Goku uniform
unlimited
thrives on.
tapped power inside of her, and that was such a cool, unique thing.
I loved it.
Yeah, I think it was amazing, and then she's just great as always. I will 100% say she was my favorite character.
Yeah.
There's lots of characters that fight for like spots 2 and 3. In my opinion, 100% my favorite. But then, literally, the coolest scene in the entire anime, to me, was the dual transformation with Ryuko and Satsuki.
Right before they go fight.
They did it like 2 or 3 times. I liked that the last time they did it, it was like an instantaneous. Like it was like here's a quick boom, boom, bam transformation. It showed the main points really quickly, and then you're in the action. Because it still showed the transformation, but you didn't need to see the full transformation.
Like when both of them are up on the same time, they're mirroring.
But the one where they did it, where they were mirrored and it was side by side, and the long version of each of them was my favorite scene in the entire show. The music, because it was that intro song, the music synced up perfectly.
Yep.
The way that every line met up perfectly from screen to screen.
Yep.
Like, it was so cool because they were different outfits, but they linked up so perfectly. And the amount of time that it would have taken them to animate that, like... Because they had to have animated them separately for the most part, but I bet they could have just put the other one on it. But like it showed, because it's the same thing we've been seeing throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
But just syncing them up showed how much detail they put into it from the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
Like
it was never.
Yeah. As the show went on, I was like, okay, this is just some crazy random bullshit. They didn't know where they were going, but you would constantly get reminded that they did have this plan. And I think that was really, really incredible. It was one of those things where, like, they led you through as if, like, we don't know what we're doing. Here, have some fun anime. And then here's a legitimate storyline throughout the whole series from front to back.
And it's like, oh, by the way, we know exactly what we've been doing. Yeah. You're wrong.
yeah. And that's another thing that shows with them not having filler. Like, anytime that they had an opportunity for filler, it was used to bring home a point that didn't have a major plot point in the story.
Yeah.
It was used to develop these characters in a well-balanced way that would be used later on. It was solid. So yeah, somewhere between 7 and 9. to answer that question.
I would say to anybody watching us right now who hasn't seen this, I do recommend it.
Yeah, I 100% would recommend.
This is always, whenever I see anybody on Facebook or anybody who's just posting about it, being like, oh, name an anime or name a show that you think I should watch, this is on that list.
Yeah. It's one of those things it's
quick,
very easy to get into, and it'll help you understand a lot of the other anime tropes. The one downside to this show as being an early thing that you watch, it sets a pretty high expectation. Like, you watch this, and then you watch one of those 40-episode animes where they've got 30 episodes of filler.
And you're disappointed.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I've definitely made some bad decisions in an anime following this. I don't remember what it was, and it's because it followed this.
Yeah. No, this was a very for people that don't watch a lot of anime, I would 100% recommend.
Yes.
And not that I wouldn't say, like, if you watch a lot of anime, don't watch this. I would just say, like, if it's something that you've watched, like, a few anime and you really enjoy watching anime, I'd maybe watch a few others first. Like, if you like the style and genre of anime, watch some of those longer ones with a lot of filler first. Because, like, try watching DBZ after this. Fucking try it. Like, if you've never, like, if you didn't watch DBZ as a kid and you try to watch it after this because you're like, oh, DBZ's the big action anime, or Naruto, tell me it's a good fucking show. Tell me. Look me in the eyes and tell me they're good shows after this. Like, they're just not. Like, I enjoy DBZ. I enjoy the original Dragon Ball. From what I've seen of Super, it's good. This is better.
Yeah.
25 episodes, you get a more compelling story than almost any arc in DBZ. I've never been able to get past like season 1.5 of Naruto. It's bad. There's not a single character in that show that's good other than like I kind of enjoy the one teacher in season 1 who's a dick all the time and like has his eye covered.
Oh yeah, he's very important pretty much. I've watched all that there is in terms of show on Naruto, and I don't think I would ever try to bring that on this.
Yeah, like I have no desire. Like I've tried so hard to enjoy that show. It's not a good show.
It's not worth it.
And some people love it. I get it.
I found myself, in my opinion, being like, a new episode came out. I gotta watch it because I've seen everything else so far.
It's the obligation.
It's like, I gotta see. I gotta be like, will this make up for what I was disappointed in last season? It won't.
Yeah. No.
It might. It won't.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Naruto defeats the ultimate being who is the creator of chakra by being a perv.
Holy shit.
Naruto's transformation jutsu. If you're mad about these spoilers, that's too bad.
I could not have imagined the show got to a point where it was that bad.
No, they were literally fighting the gods of the universe that create effectively. I mean, the mother of all chakra, which is what ninjas draw their power on. Naruto defeated her in a battle by being like reverse harem jutsu and turned into a bunch of sexy naked men.
Okay, as bad as Inuyasha is in the later seasons, you have got to give me Inuyasha over Naruto. Like, I know it's it's bad it's the same season after season 2 till the end of the show, but like that is so bad.
It was
like,
bad.
Oh my god. Okay.
It was really
getting off of that. Just in general, good anime. It's definitely one of those things where I think you have to look at the person before recommending it. But I think eventually it is a show that anybody could watch. It just depends on where they are in their journey with anime.
I will point blank at record. You will like anime fucking trial by fire. I will drag you through with this one.
This is a show that is not just you will like it because it's anime. This is a good show.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I don't think you necessarily have to like anime to watch. No. Like, I think it's just a general good, solid show. But I can understand how some of the weird things that they do with animation would be difficult for some people to start off.
Yeah, it can be weird. There's always weird moments where like animation can get some people. There's a fight scene in Naruto that I absolutely hate because they just switched to this super stretched out animation style and I hate it. But then in this one, like there's animation style and it's different and it'll catch you off guard and make you be like, what's happening?
Yeah. This show also, I think, worked really, really well as does like Star Wars The Clone Wars, the animated series. One problem that a lot of people have with that show early on is they want to binge it. And it's kind of a difficult show to just watch season 1 in a day.
As someone who is watching it, I can't watch it in one day.
3 to 4 episode arcs.
That's all I can take because
that's how I felt about this show. Was I would watch somewhere between 2 to 5 episodes a day, and I would feel like there's a natural like stopping point. Like not that the show falls off or stops.
It's just that's the end of this portion.
Yeah, you can tell it's going to move on to something else.
Yeah,
and that's how I watched this show over the course of 2 weeks. Was I would watch 2 to 5 episodes at a time, go back into it, and it would just do that daily. Yeah. And it worked great. And I think that's one thing with this show is it works really. It's arcing constantly.
Yeah.
It's not like you can binge it and not have an issue. Mm-hmm. But it's a show that I think very easily can just be watched in 3 to 5 episode arcs. And
I would say bingeable for anime veterans.
Yeah.
Watch a couple episodes at a time if you're new to anime.
Yeah, getting into the genre or series for the first time or something, I think it's very, very easy to like watch a few episodes. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about the show, if any. Like a couple of weird things.
I'm glad you like it because I like it and I want everyone to like it.
Yeah. No, I was a little nervous going into my first podcast that I'm attempting on a show that I had never seen before. Because my entire thing with this is that
I want to have fun little tidbits of information and talk about background and theories and history of things that I enjoy. Like, I've got a bunch of knowledge on Marilyn Manson or Star Wars or random little shows like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend that got obsessively big or that I was crazy about for a while. And those are things that I could very, very easily talk about for what's going to be 2 hours here. I didn't know how this was going to go because I had never watched it before. Like I said, random episode here or there or part of an episode on Toonami. But it was a very, very good recommendation. You were able to bring a lot to the conversation. It was really well done. Liked it.
It was a good one. I enjoy this anime very much, and I'm glad that you liked it. I expected that you would like it about this much.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I just realized the music was still playing on the stream. Doesn't affect the audio recording. But yeah, overall, really, really good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So, thank you. But yeah, do we have any final thoughts about the show or anything else?
I mean, no, not really. Final thoughts. I mean, I would just say that this is definitely one where, even though you've never seen it before, if you're watching us talk about this, and we've talked about the entire plot pretty much, there's still, it's not necessarily that you're going to get sad that, oh, they ruined it for me. You're still going to watch it, and it's still going to be very enjoyable. Knowing what's going to happen, you're not going to know how it's going to happen.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I really enjoyed with it, was that it
really
kept evolving.
And it really is one of those, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey that you take, sort of thing. And yeah, we told you that the mom's evil, but go watch it. See just how she is a lunatic.
She is a fucking lunatic. And that was another one of those things, like, the villain was just fucking nuts, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that there really wasn't any humanity there. It's kind of a nice change.
Yeah.
There's one moment where in the like legitimate final battle where she's like, oh, apparently I am kind of pulling my punches a little bit. Like, maybe there's some humanity in me anyways. Let's fucking kill that.
And then she kills herself.
Yeah, like, it was very well done. It was nice that you just get a fucking psychopath for once.
Yeah.
Because you get to see the villain at the beginning of the show, and you get to see that, like, maybe they're not actually a villain. Like, they're a villain in the sense of, like, they're using people. They're abusing people for their own power and benefit. But in the end, there really was a good goal to it. And they learned from those mistakes. Like, it was one of those things where the ultimate villain really was just a monster.
Oh, absolute psychopath.
And it's very
lunatic.
rare that you get that.
There's
with a
no
good story.
doubt in your mind that this being needs to end. You hate them, and to your point, every other time that's been the case, I'm just like, this is a boring character. She's not boring.
Do you know the one other time that doesn't happen? Joker.
Yep.
And you know what is crazy comparison between, like, the Joker and her and Batman and Ryuko? They won't kill the other one.
Yep.
Like, it's the same exact thing. Like, no matter how much shit you do, we're like, I can't do this. And they're the ones who end up having to take it upon themselves to get themselves out of the way. And I love that. It's crazy how well compared that is.
Yeah.
In the end, at least. But yeah, it's very hard to create a character that is just crazy random bullshit, but still compelling.
Yeah.
And they did so by building around them.
Yeah, it shows you just how truly terrible they are based off of what everyone else says.
So we got an idea for the ending here was send off with what your Kamui would be if you were in the Kill la Kill universe, and I have absolutely no idea. That is not something I've ever thought
into this. I don't necessarily have a coherent answer.
I don't think this, like, for a large majority of the show, it wasn't a coherent show. So I think
because like right now, what would mine be? I have to think, well, what am I good at? All of the characters all have something they're good at. Jakuzure is the band person. So her Goku uniform is this band uniform, and she flies a giant blimp that shoots missiles made out of clarinets, and she blasts sound. She blasts Beethoven with a bass cannon to smother her opponents.
Yeah.
Irigami Gori is a perv and very kinky, and so he has whips and bondage. Okay. Sanagayama is a swordsman, and so he is just the traditional swordsman sort of thing. And that last one, that tech guy, I forget his name. I can't.
Oh, I forget to. I want to. Can you look up that voice actor for me, actually? Because I forget who it is, but it sounded a lot like one of the people from Oran, and I could not figure out which one. And I loved his character throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, but so like his character is really good with tech, and so his ability is he just gathers intel. And so if I had to, I don't think you can choose what your uniform is. I think it's something that just improves your innate abilities.
Yeah.
Mine would probably be something close to his, because all I do is like tech stuff. That's my job. It's what I do. I fix tech. So maybe I'm out there probing things, typing keyboards on my back and my butt, and it'll fly.
I think mine would be something along the lines of, and I guess technically these are more Goku uniforms than Kamui, because in general the Kamui is more of a, it doesn't necessarily build off your innate ability as much as it does just like it doesn't really strengthen anything like that. It would just make you stronger, and it doesn't have as much personality as the Goku uniforms do. But I think what mine would be something more along the lines of, it would be very random in terms of like, it would be something that would distract me in a positive way, in the sense of like, when things are like coming at me, I would get distracted and move. Like grabbing something, and then it would be something like random that would pop out of like a bag that wouldn't seem to fit the situation, but would be helpful at the time. Because that's just kind of where I am. Shit happens, I adapt, we make it work.
I think it's Steve Cannon.
Steve Cannon, that name sounds very familiar. But yeah, I enjoyed his voice actor a lot, and I would like more things with him. I loved his voice. But yeah, that's where I think mine would fit, would be just random shit that would end up helping. It would be like multiple bags of holding that were just around me, and
open them up, see what happens.
and like video screens up all the time, and I would notice something, and I would just, things would pop up when I need them to, without me commanding things to happen. I would just adapt as the situation goes on, and I would somehow manage. That's where I think I fit in. But yeah. So yeah, I think that was actually a pretty decent idea to kind of send this off. Overall, I don't know exactly when I'll be back, because this was kind of a starting point here. I liked the live format. I liked that we were able to get some input on things, and it didn't really have to distract from the show at all. Easy enough to cut around in an audio recording if I want to cut around it, so it's not super distracting. And overall, if there are some people that are interested or very, very passionate about something, whether it's music, an anime, a TV show, a movie, a specific actor or musician, let me know, and maybe we can talk about it if you want to come on. I plan on doing these at least once a month. Potentially, my main goal for now is probably every other week, to not overdo it, and then hopefully get to a weekly format if I can do it frequently enough. But overall, I had a lot of fun with this episode. Overall, we'd probably just do Discord chats, as I don't know everybody in person and things like that. And with COVID right now, just stay safe. There's just not a reason other than to see people. And luckily, we're both safe and not going around with a bunch of random people. So we're able to have a situation like this where I can be near Gavin. But yeah. Overall, thanks everybody for showing up for the first live show. Like I said in the description, I think, or somewhere,
I'm going to have it up on YouTube within the week here, and then hopefully up on all the major streaming platforms in terms of audio podcasts. So Stitcher, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or Apple Music, and Spotify. I don't know what the process is for all of that, so I have to look into that a little bit more, and I have to work around the audio recording stuff that I have. But yeah, I'll have that up. Thank you very much for stopping in, and I will see you soon. I also stream just gaming on Twitch every Wednesday for sure, around 7 or 8 p.m. Central, and kind of infrequently throughout the week and on the weekends. You can find me on Twitter at TheOnlyNeeb. I have a TikTok at TheOnlyNeeb, and on Instagram at TheOnlyNeeb, but NIEB, as for some reason it will not let me use numbers on Instagram, and I do not know why. Because I've seen other people's names with numbers, I thought. Maybe not.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Gavin,
I don't Instagram.
do you have any social media that you plug? I don't know if you do anything right now.
Stuff.
Yeah.
I just play games.
Yeah.
If you want to play games with me,
Yeah, so reach out to me on my Discord at all. Link has been sent off a few times, I think, in the chat. Otherwise, definitely feel free to reach out to me on here or any of those other before mentioned platforms, and I will get you a link. Have a good one.